The pounding on my garage door sounded like someone was trying to break it down with a sledgehammer. I set my coffee on the counter and walked toward the noise, already knowing exactly who it was. Through the window, I saw Patricia Dalton, our HOA president, tread-faced and screaming about a stolen vehicle. Her 17-year-old son, Tyler, stood smugly behind her with his arms crossed, looking as arrogant as ever. "Open this door immediately." Patricia's voice pierced through the metal. "I know you're hiding stolen property in there. The police are already on their way." I actually smiled at that last part. If only she knew. I grabbed my badge off the counter, clipped it to my belt, and instead of opening the garage, I stepped out the front door. The look on her face when she saw me calm, collected, and entirely unbothered was almost worth the weeks of harassment. But to understand how we got here, let me back up. Before we jump in, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any awesome HOA stories. 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved into Riverside Heights after being promoted to chief of police for the city. After 20 years of apartment living, finally bought a modest 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage just big enough for my pride and joy. A 1969 Squay Ford Mustang Boss 429 in grabber blue. I'd spent 5 years restoring that car with my late father. Every bolt, every panel, every detail perfect. It wasn't just a car. It was the last thing we worked on together before cancer took him. I'd driven it exactly 3 times since moving in. Most of my neighbors admired it. But not all. Patricia Dalton lived 4 houses down with her entitled teenage son, Tyler. She made it clear from day one that she ran the neighborhood like a little kingdom. The first time we met, she handed me a 3-inch binder labeled HOA Guidelines and Expectations and scolded me because my moving truck was parked 2 minutes past the allowed limit. "We run a tight ship here," she'd said, her bleach blonde hair immaculate despite the 90-degree heat. "I trust you'll be a compliant addition." I smiled, took the binder, and said nothing about being the police chief. I don't like mixing my work with my personal life, and I certainly didn't want anyone treating me differently. The trouble began the second week. I was detailing the Mustang when Tyler swaggered up the driveway in designer sneakers and zero respect. "Sweet ride," he said, running his hand along the fender. "V8 429 Cobra Jet," I replied, gently moving his hand away. "Just finished waxing that." He grinned with that look I'd seen too often, entitlement wrapped in teenage confidence. "You should let me take it for a spin," he said. "I got my license last month." I nearly laughed. "Sorry, son. This car doesn't leave the garage unless I'm driving it." His smile vanished. "My dad pays a lot in HOA fees. That makes me part owner of this street. So, technically, I own part of this car." I blinked. "That's not how property works." "We'll see about that," he muttered, stomping off. 20 minutes later, Patricia was at my door, decked out in what I can only call her battle outfit: pressed white pants, a blazer with an HOA pin, and heels clicking like gunshots on my porch. "Mr. Morrison," she snapped, "my son tells me you were rude to him." "I told him he couldn't drive my car," I replied. "Tyler is a very responsible young man," she said. "When he shows interest in something, it's only neighborly to accommodate him. We're a community here. That car's a vintage muscle car, ma'am. I don't let anyone drive it." She sniffed. "We'll see if that vehicle even complies with HOA regulations." And she followed through. Over the next week, I received absurd violation notices. The car was too loud, too bright. Even classified as a commercial vehicle, because it could be used for racing. Okay? Responded to each notice with documented citations from the bylaws, proving her wrong at every turn. That only made her angrier. Then came the Saturday showdown. I was mowing my lawn when Tyler returned with 2 buddies. "Hey, Mr. Morrison," he said, trying to sound friendly. "We were wondering if you'd reconsider. Maybe just a quick ride." "No, Tyler," I said firmly. One of his friends stepped up. "Don't be such a hard-ass, man. What's it gonna hurt?" I leveled them with my chief of police tone. You boys need to go home. Ow. An hour later, Patricia returned, this time with her husband, Richard, in tow. You threatened my son and his friends, she shrieked. Richard's a lawyer. We could sue for emotional distress. Richard winced. I'd already looked him up. He was a tax attorney. Not exactly a courtroom warrior. Ma'am, I asked them to leave my property. That's within my rights. We'll see what the HOA board says about that, she snapped, storming off. At the next HOA meeting, which I didn't attend, Patricia apparently gave a 40-minute PowerPoint presentation about the dangers of street racing. My neighbor Janet later told me she even used the word hooligan. Then came this morning. I was sipping coffee when I spotted Tyler and his friends outside, snapping selfies through the garage window. Tyler, leave. Now, it's just pictures, bro. For Instagram, he said. My followers love sick rides. Get off my property. Last warning, Tyler flushed. That car should be mine anyway. You're too old to appreciate it. My voice dropped. Leave now, or I'll call the police. He smirked. My mom already did. She found out the registration doesn't match your name, said you stole the car. I sighed. Patricia had apparently discovered it was still registered under my late father's name. I hadn't gotten around to the paperwork yet. Then came the sirens. 3 patrol cars blazed down our quiet street. Patricia stood triumphantly in her driveway, phone in hand. Officers, she shouted. The thief is right there. I recognized the officers instantly: Martinez, Davidson, Thompson, and the rookie Patel. Martinez stepped out, stunned. Chief Morrison. Morning, Martinez, I said casually. Patricia's jaw dropped. Chief, Davidson clarified. Ma'am, this is the chief of police. The color drained from Patricia's face. Tyler suddenly found his phone very interesting. Richard looked ready to dig a hole and disappear. The registration doesn't match, Patricia cried. The car belonged to my father, I said calmly. He passed 6 months ago. I inherited it, but haven't updated the title yet. Want to see the will? No, I didn't know, she stammered. You filed a false report. That's not a mistake, that's malicious, I replied. Martinez, take her statement. Yes, sir. Thompson turned to Tyler. Were you involved? Yeah, so what? Tyler snapped. He's been a dick since he moved in. Tyler, Richard barked. But it was too late. She runs this neighborhood. We'll sue the whole police department. Patel's body cam was rolling. Neighbors gathered to watch. Petria was cited for filing a false report and misuse of 911. Tyler got a trespassing warning. I'm on the HOA board. Patricia shrieked as she was handed the citation. And you used that power to harass a neighbor and waste police resources? I replied. Richard apologized again and promised it wouldn't happen again. The body cam footage was public record. Within days, someone posted it online. Entitled, HOA President Calls Cops on Police Chief, went viral. Tyler's rant became a meme. At the emergency HOA meeting, Patricia tried to spin the narrative, but the floodgates opened. Neighbors shared stories of her bullying, excessive fines, and abuse of power. The vote to remove her was unanimous. You'll regret this, she said as she left. No, said Janet, standing. You made this neighborhood a dictatorship. Now we can make it a community. Patricia fled in tears. Richard stayed behind, apologized again, and said they were putting the house up for sale. In court, Judge Hendricks wasn't amused. You knowingly filed a false report, he said. That's not concern its intent. He fined her $8,000 plus court costs and sentenced her to 50 hours of community service. As she left the courtroom, her humiliation was complete. The woman who once ruled Riverside Heights like a tyrant had been brought down by her. Own entitlement tanned her son's arrogance. And me, I finally got a quiet Saturday with my Mustang shining peacefully in the garage. What would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments.